let's go into another incredibly iconic group of people. Hugely important in the story, and that's the Hardie Boys. So, what was the idea behind the Hardie Boys, first of all, when you were coming up with them?
Well, Robert told me that he needs a group of rowdy dock workers who act as game mechanically like this kind of a blocker starting from day two. And as far as blocking progress with difficult checks, they cover like the midpoint of the game. It takes a while to pass all of these free checks. Yes, Robert also told me that he wants this free check system, free tiers. I think we switched out which of the skills these are a few times during this balancing of skills, so that all builds get as much variety as possible. But as far as sort of influences go, I think yesterday I already told you that prototypes for Titus Hardy are the characters of London and the characters of MacLeod from John Steinbeck's In Dubious Battle, which is I've read it.
No, but you did say it. Sorry, no, I haven't read it. It's one of your favorite books, right?
Absolutely, yeah. John Steinbeck is my favorite writer of all time. No question about it. But yeah, it's a fantastic book about strikes and agitators. Very, very highly recommended. But then the rest of the crew, well, there was some weird variation or weird iterations there. We tried to make it like a dynamic group of people with sort of different representation. But one of the characters, Alan, the banger, with him, like the initial version that I wrote, I think it was kind of like an offensive caricature of this Spanish gangbanger from too much inspired by the characters you would see in Shield.
Yeah.
So then we decided that this is not gonna fly. We tried like a different iteration that. The code name for that was Iliad Vato, which was basically we took the essence of the character, but now we try like this Russian convict Brotherhood of Thieves type of a character there, who uses a lot of Russian curses and says "blat" a lot. That didn't work out very well, but we rode with it for a couple of months, and then eventually went back to Alan, removed bunch of Spanish words and got him to a shape where he is now. Fat Angus based here on Chris Farley.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
Shanky didn't actually have a real life character prototype, but basically, like my creative process with characters is first comes the name, and then I go and I look photos of people's faces on Google till I find something that I feel would connect to this. And with Shanky, when I found the rat-faced man, I honestly, he's originally a sailor of some kind of a sailor from the late 19th century, I think, or early 20th century. Then I started hearing this kind of a snickering voice. Then it started coming together. But
he always reminds me of Jim Carrey's The Mask. Actually, do you know what I'm talking about? When he does the really silly laugh. I watched The Mask over Christmas, and there's a point where I don't know, he makes some Jim Carrey mask joke, right? But he does this cartoon. I was like, oh, it's Shanky off Disco Elysium.
Interesting. I have to look at Mask with this in mind. But I think this group of guys is also like a good example of characters coming to life and starting to live a life of their own, because they all are part of one scene and they act as one scene. Then basically I had to come up with all of them the same time, and you can't expect that 8 characters, 7 actually, 8 Ruby's 8.
I was going to get to that and say, yeah, is Ruby counting? But yeah, go on.
coming up with 7 characters, sort of like full-fledged characters at the same time, it's, I don't know, it was beyond my abilities. So I kind of, with every rewrite, they kind of got more and more fleshed out. And Shanky didn't start out as the villain. It's just because he had I saw him going with this bootlicker tendencies a little bit, and in the end, just to add some narrative diversity to the group, they can't all be honorable good boys. So I kind of did an injustice to Shanky, and Shanky didn't get any kind of like a redemption arc either. Like, he's just this cowardice guy who runs away from the battle if he gets a chance.
So I want to remark a little bit on and compliment you, actually. And I don't know if many people have ever made this observation. Glenn is a member of the homosexual underground, and he's in a very masculine group. And what I thought was really beautifully done in the writing was how that worked in that dynamic. It's interesting because none of the rest of the group have a problem with it, right? It's not that at all.
Okay.
But if you have, let's say you have a bunch of, sorry to stereotype you now, bricklayers on a building site, and they also all don't have a problem with people being homosexual, being whatever they want to be. I can guarantee you, though, they don't like talking about it. And it won't be a completely, don't talk about that here. It's an awkwardness where they're like, it makes me feel weird, but I also love my friend and I don't really care, but also it's like so foreign to me. Like there's a moment where Glenn says, when Titus says, looks like we got ourselves a bunch of they sent the real big dick cops. Glenn says something like, yeah, they all got real nice big dicks, and Titus just goes anyway. And I just, that little moment, I was like, oh, it's just perfectly captured what that dynamic would actually be like. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, honestly, kind of. When I think back, what helped in shaping of this dynamic, when I went to school again, I like my academic career, but I tried going to school multiple times, but in my early 20s, when it seemed after many schools, it seems it's impossible. Then there was a huge gap, and I think when I was 29, I went to study car mechanics. And the school I studied in Tallinn, it's one of those schools where kids go when they were not rejected from all other schools. It's the one where you go on the 29th of August and say, hey, like, to have one more spot for me and my friend. And so it's kind of like what you would call bad kids. And what really surprised me after I had been there for a month or 2 months, how much mentality of this kind of 16, 17-year-old bad kids had shifted since when I went to schools. Like homosexual slurs were like from second grade, not even second grade, in kindergarten, kids started using it. It's kind of like prison slang if you listen to it.
Yeah.
And that was very normal in that era. And you would or like, my assumption was that these bad kids who kind of take knives to school and shit like that they wouldn't change, and not especially not in the span of one generation. But I remember this scene from, I think it was the class automatic gearboxes or something like that, where somebody made some kind of a weird reference, which was definitely homophobic. And this kind of a biggest fog in the class stood up and said, like, dude, what the fuck is your problem? Like, everybody has a right to define themselves as they do. And this kind of unanimous support that the other roughnecks in the class had at the statement, this was very kind of like positive reminder that changes can happen much faster and in unexpected, much faster than you expect, and in unexpected places. In the same way with the Hardie Boys, it's not an issue. It's like in some ways, the society, and especially this kind of a post-traumatic event society as Reversal is, of course, there are certain reservations, but already on like a human scale, people have moved on. And also the other thing is that there is a very real friendship between Glenn, Alain, and Titus, Eugene as well, but I just didn't write it as well, or I didn't integrate it as well. It's not so clear. And Angus is kind of the newest member in the group, and Janky is a little bit of the outlier, or not like a good fit.
Yeah. The one you haven't mentioned, we'll obviously talk very specifically about Titus because there's some really interesting checks there. But out of the other kind of rapscallions in the Hardies, Theo, who is the old guy just quietly sat at the back. What was your thoughts with him? Because he's kind of like a previous leader, right? Mm-hmm. That's how he's kind of pitched. He's got authority, but it's not like it used to be type thing.
Yeah, he's in many ways, I would say, the least developed character of the Hardie Boys. I think that's one of the characters that Robert told me that there needs to be an old black guy who smokes. Former leader of the Hardie Boys, so we can create this weird who's in charge here situation down the line where I think.
You one of the ways you try and get under Hardie's skin is by saying, well, who's in charge here, and then you can pick on Angus, right? And then he'll kind of buckle. So go on, sorry.
Supposed to be like this invisible weight or shut-out weight in the corner. That he speaks rarely, but when he does, it makes an impact. And
I think it was really well done, actually. I think you may feel he was underdeveloped, but he absolutely served the purpose, right? I think you can ask him to get you the key off the window, and he says something like, "I don't give a fuck about your key." And there was something like, it reminded me of the first time I'd made the mistake of calling a police officer mate, and he turned around and went, "I'm not your fucking mate." And I was like, like you think you go that one step in thinking you're on some sort of friendly ground, and very quickly told, no, you're fucking not. And that's what it reminded me of. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie is called Sling Blade? It's an early film with the guy who played Malvo in Fargo. God, say his name.
Oh, I haven't seen Fargo for ages. Is it Billy Bob?
Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton.
Bob Thornton,
Thornton, I think like the most iconic role, or like one of the craziest acting performances I've ever seen on screen. I highly recommend it. There is the antagonist. Antagonist. It's well, if you watch this movie, I think you will, and keep Theo in mind. You might find the connection there. There is one character who very much embodies this kind of a shift of, hey, I thought you were normal, like I didn't mean to offend you. I said, mate.
Yeah, no, it's good. Really, really love it. So just quickly, I'm guessing because of the nature of her in the story, Ruby was not part of what you wrote as the Hardies. Is that right then?
No, Ruby was written by Olga.
Oh, okay. So Titus, absolute monolith of a character. Tell us where your head was at with him, and when how you envisioned him during his inception.
Well, like I immediately went to the character of MacLeod in London in Dubious Battle. Like if you read it, and honestly, like I had a particular audiobook in mind. My first experience with Dubious Battle was in the shape of an audiobook, and like I'm sure you're familiar with the term Dust Bowl. And there is this specific way of speaking and accent, one might say. Like, I think it's Oklahoma. Sometimes people just call it Dust Bowl, but it is like the certain dragging out of certain words, certain length of sentences, keeping it short. And I had this exact voice of the audiobook reader in mind. And with this, well, like all characters, yes, there was also photo. I'll send you the photo later as well. But with this combination of voice and photo, it was incredibly simple to just write him. Like he just still kind of speaks in my head. And the thing with him was that I think he was the only character with whom I had I was very specific with who I wanted for the voice actor. And well, initially I wanted the guy who voiced the audiobook, but that was first of all, I think he wasn't alive anymore at that point, and the voicing started during COVID, so it would have been extremely difficult to, even if he was alive, to even fly him over. But with him as well, kind of the original voiceover that he got, and I don't mean the one in before the final cut, but in final cut, he was one of the most difficult characters to get right. And the sad thing is that we did finally figure out what is this, how to get it across to the voice actor to get exactly what we want out of him. And we started massively re-recording the lines in the very end. But we ran out of time, and this kind of, I would say that there's still 40% of Titus's lines where all that needs to happen is reduce the speed to like 0.25% up to 0.5%. Just slow it down. He says the lines otherwise very, very well, puts the intonations right, but he speaks too fast, and it kind of comes off a little bit weird, a little bit more aggressive, little less calm than his lines would read in your head if you turned off the voice acting. Sometimes.
I get it. Yeah, and there are some, like, it's interesting. I'm going to say there's a guy creator on YouTube called Jeffiat who has been contacting me recently, and he actually made a really funny observation about that slowness you talk about as it happens. And because he was like trying to do something with some footage, and he was saying, please curse whoever decided whenever I come and meet Titus that I have to wait for him to do his like little 3-step walk and then say and then, is that you? and then say really slowly, looks like the clouds are in town. Amazing. Funny enough, I messaged him yesterday. I said, I've just spoken to Argo Tuulik. I remembered to mention it because he'd said to me previously, can you ask him who the fuck decided to do that? because if you fail the check, and let's say you haven't saved, for example, you could have like only just finished inspecting the body or something, then you've got to come round, go through Lizzie again, and then do all that thing. So I kind of get it, and if you're not careful, you get caught out by those little things.
Yeah, honestly, but this is a good example of sometimes you end up in these situations where you're so close to the thing that you can't anymore understand what is the right way to go. Like because the ground rule is don't show what you tell, and especially animations, quite often, more often than not, it's better to leave it for the imagination. Like, for example, if the dialogue says that you open the drawer, you absolutely don't need your character to actually reach out and do like a universal move every time.
Yeah.
Titus doesn't need to actually the model doesn't need to lift the beer can every time he takes a sip. But I had a bunch of these weird moments where I think I fucked up a little bit. Like there's another one is where he shows you the gun. Like I remember we had a discussion with Robert, and Robert was also of the mind that he doesn't actually need to show you. Like this is one of these things that the player can do in their head. Leave it to the imagination. Yeah. To me, it always felt a little wrong. It always felt that he needs to open the jacket. He needs to show you that he's packing the. What's the name of the?
I know that he's got a really powerful. It's
50 yes.
Yeah, his is like his would take your head off, basically, wouldn't it? Yeah.
This is a Dirty Harry Callahan reference.
Yeah.
Clean off.
44 Magnum. Yeah.
Funny thing with the voiceover that with Titus, like, to me, it's impossible to nowadays even play through Titus and not notice these inconsistencies where literally the pace of voiceover changes over a couple of lines, like 2 cards good, then suddenly he goes back to speaking too fast, then he goes back to speaking normal, and like I notice it every time. But yesterday when you told me that Tarek's accent changes in Eberhard, I never recognized this. And Tarek's demo tape for Eberhard was the very first time I heard first line, and I knew in my head that's the guy, that's the voice, that's exactly the right face, right intonation.
Have you ever heard the comparison to David Mitchell about Everard? You know who David Mitchell is? The guy behind Peep Show and... Oh, no, he's not behind it.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes,
yeah.
Of course.
Everyone always says he sounds like David Mitchell.
That's interesting. I never thought of it.
You'll have to check it, but I agree with it. There's funny enough, actually, Gart also sounds like a character in Peep Show, a guy called... Gog, I think they call him, or something like that. He's one of Jeremy's old friends from school. Anyway, I've gone off on one big time there. Some people will go, 41st Precinct, watch Peep Show. That's about as good as we can get out of that. So,
I think it was a wonderful piece of British comedy.
Oh, so it's probably my favourite. Between...
Do you know Beak Train?
Pardon?
Beak Train. Do you know Beak Train?
Peak Train, no.
Very strange. Like back in Estonia, every now and then, like once a year, the national television chose one British comedy show, and they showed that one. And one of them was called Beak Train, like large train, and it was basically like a 20-minute sketch show. I remembered it back then as one of the funniest things ever. Simon Pegg was in it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well-known people, and this was one of those things that I think the influences of that type of humor and those sketches have also resonated all the way down to when we started making Disco Elysium. Like me and Robert and Luix, we were such huge fans of this show that we literally walked around reciting sketches of this to each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And there you go. There's another thing for everybody to go and hunt down and watch. So there are, just going back to Titus now, there are a few, I mean, it's really, really key point in the story. So I do want to talk about it a little bit. But I want to talk about some of the checks that happen first, or well, one in particular sticks out, and that is establishing your authority. So I guess you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you fail that check, one of the options...
ready to respect me.
Yeah, you will respect me after I do this, you fucking whore, or something like that, I think it is.
God, yes. Mm-hmm.
In fact, I did a tweet tweeted the other day. Someone had, I don't know why these tweets happen, but someone had said, "What's the most masculine way to kill yourself?" And I quote tweeted it with Harry saying that exact thing. So yeah, tell us about that. Honestly, it's a huge favourite, and we have to talk about how that came to be.
That was a hilarious way, most hilarious thing to write. I think we went back and forth with it, me and Robert both. The idea that you should be able to threaten to kill yourself, the idea comes from Robert. I wrote it, but this really like what the magic of this happens wasn't. This is also good moment to talk about this kind of how do you say, like meta design, like the way basically the dialogue options that you see in a dialogue hub. All of these are thoughts that go through Harry's head. So kind of the things that you don't click on, these are still things Harry fought to say.
Yeah.
And on this one particular, I remember that we had so much fun arranging them, and even this sequence. I wish I had that hub in front of me right now. Even the sequence that ends with.
I think the last one's give Kim the gun back, right? The bottom one.
Yeah, that's when the tension comes down. But I think even maybe it's one half before when you
second bottom is kill yourself. Yeah.
When Kim has already, you ask for the gun, Kim doesn't want to give you, and there's some kind of the line is something like, "I'm not afraid anymore. I know what I have to do now."
Yeah.
There's this incredible, like at the same time, it's really funny, but it's very ominous. Like when somebody says, "I'm not afraid anymore. I know what I have to do now." It's really, really ominous. And I think so. I think in the same half, you also say something about the star chamber reference in your head or your brain. I wish I had it.
I've got it in front of me.
You can read it.
Right. So this is, and I didn't realize this was option 1, and it's fucking amazing. So this is so good. So Titus Hardy says, "Fellas, you getting any of this?" And you can then. So I had obviously responded, "You will never forget what happens in 5 seconds if you don't respect me." Then Kim, and then Titus then responds, "Fellas, this cop is really threatening to off himself. This is insane." Kim then says, "No, that is not what is happening. This show is unnecessary. Give me my gun now." Then your options are this, right? This is so fucking good. Number 1, these are my thoughts. This is my head.
Yes.
And then number 2 was, "You will never forget what happens in about 5 seconds." Then it's, "You better get ready to fucking respect me in 5, 4, 3. Then it's, "I'm not fucking this case up. Finger on the trigger. You will respect me." Then it's number 5, "I'm going to kill myself now, you fucking whore." And then the final one is, "Give the gun back." So you've got what, 3 options to kill yourself, pretty much. I think it's.
To me, still to this day, the funniest thing is how desperately Kim is working to recontextualize this stuff. And I think like a similar thing happens in probably failure in the same check where I think this is the next one. This is convince Titus that they are being manipulated.
Yes.
Where he starts playing an imaginary fiddle.
Anything that's in a bracket. I did a thread, I don't know, probably early this year. What's your favorite bracketed action? That was one. You're being played like a fiddle, and then it says in brackets, "Play an imaginary fiddle." There's also cock carousel. Make a fucking drill your hole in your mouth. I think it, or something like that. It is. There's obviously Dios Mio. A liberal, you know, when she says, "I'm the worst of the worst," that vermin, and it's Dios, draw a cross. I just love, like, that religion doesn't even exist in like Elysium, but it's like, it's the only way that, like, it's such a fucking funny little. In fact, actually, I would argue it's probably the funniest, like, in my opinion, the funniest line in the whole game is that Dios Mio moment. It's just like, what, 5 words? I was like, oh, it's amazing. And there's obviously one at the very beginning where the mirror says, "Please promise me you won't use this on any of the ladies." And you can say, "I promise," lie in brackets. And what's really funny about it is, like, you're literally communicating with your thoughts. So, like, you're not lying to anybody but yourself. Yeah. It's genius, man. It's just genius.
This is maybe a good moment to briefly kind of talk about it from, I don't know, writing technical angle. Like, you probably noticed that there doesn't seem to be like a universal rule, like when are the brackets used. And it is a very intuition-based thing. Like, you have to use it sparingly, because otherwise you kind of create the expectation that it's constantly used, and confusion when you feel that there's a moment where something should be in brackets and not. Yeah. So kind of the idea there is to always keep it light and use it sparingly. Use it only in special occasions. Like I think there are plenty of situations where you can lie without the brackets telling you that you're lying. Like if every time the brackets told you that you're lying, then it kind of takes something out of it. It
takes away the agency, like your willingness to lie. Like there are certain characters where you feel like you want to lie, but obviously the lie there is deliberately to make you laugh, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also the other thing is that this kind of feeds into one of the cornerstone design principles of Disco Elysium, and this is asymmetry. Like, and this is the kind of a design principle that goes, I think, into every aspect of the game. Like, not all skills are equal. You don't have equal amount of checks or passives for each skills. When you get to say political things, you don't always get to say all 4 things. You don't always have all the options.
Yeah.
And same with the copper types. And kind of this is something we realized, that human brain finds symmetry very calming, but it also removes a little bit or takes you off the dopamine loop. In the same way, like, you always know that a passive can pop up at any time, but because you don't see what's happening in the background, you never know when it actually happens. And when it does, it's like it gives you this little small dopamine trip. And in the same way, like because you never know to expect how many dialogue options or that a dialogue option related to your specific path would pop up, then this always kind of keeps you in this state of expectation.